She moved quietly through the mansion, her footsteps swallowed by marble floors. To everyone else, she was invisible, the cleaning lady in the background. But she saw what others ignored. A strange weakness in the billionaire. CEO's movements, a flicker of pain in his eyes. No one listened to her warnings. Hours later, the truth would erupt in a way no one could deny. The question is, why did it take the voice of someone unseen to reveal what everyone else refused to see? Her name was Clara, though few ever bothered to ask. To the staff, she was just the maid. She worked long nights in silence, her hands raw from scrubbing, her back aching from carrying the weight of other people's luxury. She had no riches, no titles, only dignity, discipline, and a quiet strength that came from years of being overlooked. Every evening, she moved through the mansion like a shadow, dusting crystal chandeliers, polishing floors that gleamed like mirrors, and emptying trash bins filled with the excess of lives far removed from her own. She was invisible until the night she wasn't. Clara had learned to notice small things. The stain left on a glass, the folded page in a forgotten book, a misplaced cufflink near the study desk. Details others ignored became her compass. But when her eyes caught something unusual about the man everyone admired, she couldn't shake the feeling. The billionaire, CEO who commanded boardrooms with thunderous authority, suddenly looked fragile, his gait uneven, his breathing shallow, his hand trembling against the armrest of a chair no one else believed he could fall from. The others looked away. She could not. She knew something was wrong, but speaking up carried its own risk. After all, in a world that dismissed her presence, would anyone even believe her? Clara kept her head down as the party unfolded around her. Laughter echoed through the marble halls, glasses clinked, and music swelled, a celebration of wealth and power. To the guests, it was just another night, but Clara's eyes never left the man at the center of it all. The CEO, the figure everyone admired, the man whose name opened doors and moved markets. He raised his glass for a toast, yet his hand shook so slightly that only Clara seemed to notice. When he stepped off the dais, his stride faltered, his face tightening as though each breath carried weight. The people closest to him brushed it off, too enchanted by his charm and too blinded by his status. "He's just tired," one aide whispered. "He's been working hard," another excused. But Clara knew fatigue when she saw it. This was something different, something dangerous. She tried to speak. First, to a butler she trusted. He waved her off with a polite smile that masked irritation. "Don't start trouble. Clara, the man doesn't need your worry." She tried again, this time to a secretary adjusting papers near the study. The woman gave her a look sharp enough to cut. "Know your place," she hissed. "You're here to clean, not diagnose." Each dismissal stung, not just because of the words, but because of what they carried. The unspoken truth, her voice had no value. Her uniform made her invisible, and her skin, dark, in a sea of white faces, made her warnings seem less than whispers in the wind. Yet the signs grew clearer. He left the dining table abruptly, pressing a hand to his chest as if steadying himself. His complexion turned pale under the golden lights. Clara's heart pounded, her instincts screaming louder than the music that filled the room. She was caught between two choices: stay silent and watch disaster unfold, or speak louder, risk humiliation, or worse, punishment, for stepping beyond the role the world had caged her in. The decision hung heavy. The night air thickened with tension, and just as she took a step forward, ready to risk everything, the sound of shattering glass ripped through the celebration. The glass slipped from his hand and exploded against the marble floor, a sharp crack that silenced the laughter in an instant. The billionaire CEO staggered, his body folding as though the weight of the world had finally claimed him. Gasps swept through the room. Guests leapt back, frozen between horror and disbelief. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. She had seen this moment coming, every tremor, every falter leading here. For a second, she hesitated, because she knew what would happen if she stepped forward. The uniform she wore was a barrier, and the color of her skin was a verdict in their eyes. But watching him collapse to his knees, clutching his chest, she could no longer remain silent. "Call for help!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the stunned quiet. But no one moved. Some whispered, others stared. His closest associates hovered, paralyzed, waiting for someone else, anyone else, to act. Clara dropped her cleaning rag and rushed to his side. The room seemed to recoil as she knelt next to him, her dark hands steadying the man who had built empires. She shouted again, this time with authority. "He needs medical attention now. He's showing signs of a heart attack." The words hung heavy in the air. Doctors were in the crowd, wealthy friends, esteemed specialists, but they hadn't seen what she saw. Now, with his life visibly slipping away, they scrambled, fumbling for their phones, barking orders too late. It was Clara who pressed her hand against his chest, tilting his head carefully, checking his pulse with precision. Learned from years of caring for others when no one cared for her. She was invisible until this moment. But now the spotlight burned on her, an uninvited presence, a last line between life and death. And in that instant, the room had no choice but to see her. The sirens came minutes later. But by then it was Clara's hands that had steadied him, Clara's voice that had kept him breathing, Clara's courage that had bought him the precious time he needed to survive. Paramedics rushed him out, and the mansion, once filled with music and laughter, echoed only with whispers. Whispers about how the woman they never noticed had saved, the man they thought untouchable. Yet even in that moment she felt the weight of their stares. Gratitude mixed with discomfort, respect tangled with shame. Some clapped her on the back, calling her brave. Others avoided her gaze, uneasy with the truth her actions revealed. They had all ignored her warnings, not because she was wrong, but because of who she was. The CEO lived. Days later, when the story reached the press, his survival was framed as luck, a miracle, a timely rescue. Few mentioned Clara, fewer still acknowledged what it meant, that the woman dismissed as invisible had seen, what the powerful chose to ignore. For Clara, it wasn't about recognition. It was about the reminder burned into her heart. How dangerous it is when society decides some voices matter more than others. She knew that had she remained silent, the man would likely be gone. But she also knew how close he and they all came to paying the price of prejudice. Because this story was never just about a billionaire and his maid. It was about what happens every day, in boardrooms, in hospitals, in classrooms, on the streets, when people are dismissed, unheard, unseen because of the color of their skin. And so the question remains, how many more lives must hang in the balance before the world finally listens to the voices it tries so hard to silence?